All right. Hey, everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and try something pretty different today. I'm going to try to give a sort of, not exactly a lesson, but just like one of my normal tutorial videos on step components on the OPXY, and then I'm going to try to edit this later. One of the advantages of this is that I'll be able to answer any questions you might have in real time. And then another advantage is that even if I don't get around to editing this, people will still see it. Plus, this holds me sort of, I guess it sort of makes me, gives me a bit more accountability of actually following through on this and not just going, oh no, I don't like the example I've made. So we are committed and we are going to be going into all sorts of details about step components today. Well, maybe not a ton of details, but we're just going to go over all of my sort of favorite ways of using them. So first of all, I'm making a few assumptions here. The first assumption I'm going to make is, and actually, back up for a second. I enabled a goal in the chat for super chats. That costs money. You don't have to do it. I just figured it's the type of thing that if I never ask for it, I can never expect somebody to just randomly do it. So if you feel like throwing some money my way, go for it. If not, literally no big deal, and it doesn't affect your ability to ask me a question or get my attention or anything like that. So just kind of like a little bonus. Yeah, so anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to assume that you already know how to add and edit step components, so I can make a separate video if needed for that, but that's out of the scope of this video. And I'm also going to assume that you're pretty comfortable overall navigating the XY, changing tracks, adding patterns, adding scenes, things like that. So if that's not you, then that also will probably end up, this video will probably be a little bit harder to follow. Okay, so with all of that being said, I've just got a default project up here that I've changed the gain, I've changed all the gain levels and the compressor level on, but otherwise it's just all of the default patches. So the first, and I would personally argue the most important, is the conditionals. So there are these last three here. And they used to be called sparks on the OPZ, but now they are called skip triggers. So this is skip trigger, this one is skip component, and this one is skip parameter. And so they work, they both work pretty similarly. Let's just open up keys. Yeah. So what skip component can do is it just can determine, what skip trigger, this last one here, can do, it'll determine when the notes on this step are played. And so right now, what this is showing me is it's showing me that it will not play any note the first time it goes past this step, but it will play on the second time. If I press 2 again, the flashing one means it'll play the notes on this step the first time, but not the second time. And this sort of logic applies just across the board here. So if I press 9, this means it's not going to play anything the first 8 times, but it will every 9th time. First of every 9th time, the first 8 out of every 9, and then 2 through 9 out of every 9, but it will not play it that first time. And let me know if the XY is too loud. It's really hard for me to tell how the level is compared to my voice. And I will not be able to edit that part in post on this, unfortunately. Okay, so hopefully that part is somewhat straightforward. There's obviously a lot that you can do with this. You can make it so you add like a drum fill every 4th time. I'll just make a very basic so I'll just have it where it's going to play a pretty basic pattern, but then every 4th time it's also going to add in these 3 notes. So in this case, I may also just make this one happen every 2nd time. And so what I've basically done, thanks to the feedback on the volume, what I've basically done here is make it so that I've got a very basic pattern, but every 2nd time, it's also going to add in this little extra kick on that last 8th note before, or whatever you'd call this, on the 14th step. And then every 4th time, it's also going to add in a kick and an extra snare hit. So we've basically made like a pretty straightforward 4-bar loop with some variation, just using the what is it, skip trigger. And actually, in this case, let's remove that. And maybe we'll have that happen only the first of every 2 times. Okay, so that's basically how all 3 of these work. The difference, though, is that instead of skipping the notes on a trigger, and actually one more really important detail to provide here, I'm going to play this in slowly, and you'll see that skip trigger doesn't always apply how you would expect if the notes spill into a different step. Actually, let me do that a little bit quicker. And so this has quantization on it, and I'm actually going to turn that off right now. And what I'll do is I'll make it so that this step only happens every 2nd time. And so that's actually going to be, I think, our last note that we played. And so even if you... So just something to be aware of, that even if you do have a skip trigger on one step, if some of those notes spill into the step next to it, it's not going to affect those notes that have spilled over. Okay, so that is skip trigger. Let's talk about the next one, which is pretty similar, but it's just there's a meaningful difference. So I'm actually going to, instead of going straight from skip trigger to skip component, I'm going to go to skip parameter. And what this does is it changes how this handles parameter locks. As of the latest update, we can now actually parameter lock some of these steps, which is kind of cool, or the drum engine steps. What I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to make it so that, oh, is it not actually adjusting what I asked it to? That's a bummer. I think what I'm going to try to do then Okay, let me just make sure I actually have one to, to actually show you. So let's just make it so that the envelope here is just a little bit. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, on this step, held shift and selected that step, I'm going to add a skip parameter 2. So it's only going to apply that slower attack every 2nd pass. So on this first one, it's going to be the regular envelope. And the second one's going to be really soft. And this follows the same logic for values that skip trigger did, which is that flashing 4 means it's only going to apply all the parameter locks on this step every 4th of 4 times. The first of every 4 times, first 3 of every 4 times, and then 2, 3, and 4, but not the first time. Cool. So next thing I want to show is I'm going to call that, that's as much as I want to cover the skip and parameter, or the skip trigger and skip parameter step components. Next, I'm going to move on to skip component. Now, worth noting is that these 3 conditionals do not affect each other. So if I have right here, this is going to make it so that the envelope of this is a little bit softer on 2, 3, and 4. But that actually has nothing to do with the skip trigger. So if I make it so that this skip trigger only plays the first 3 of 4 times, it's not going to affect this. It will play it the first time with that harsh attack, second and third time with the softer attack, and then the fourth time it'll still apply that soft attack, but it's not going to play any of the notes on here because of our skip trigger. Okay, so we got a question here. How do you switch between this every 4th time or every 3 and not the 4th time? The way that you do that is after you've selected a step, and in this case, instead of tapping one of these, I'm going to hold it because it already has like a skip parameter on it, and I just want to edit it instead of erase it. You just keep pressing the same value button repeatedly. So if I go 3, 4, 5, then each time it's just going to have the last one flashing. But if I go 4, 4, 4, 4, it'll cycle through those options. And of course, with 2, you only actually have 2 options. With 3, that's when you start having all 4 options of the all four options there. What did I apply this on? There we go. I think that's what it was. Okay, so the next conditional is the what is this one? Oh my gosh. skip component. And so this is going to apply to all step components from jump back to pulse. So this one does not affect these 2 at all. Like I was saying before, these 3 do not impact each other. So that actually has the advantage, though, of making it so you can have pretty complicated, hard to guess patterns. I'm actually going to really quickly take one step back because I realized I forgot something pretty important here, which is that there's not just 9 values for these, right? There's also 0, and that's going to be random, and that may not work how you're expecting. It's not going to randomly play this chord on this step. It's going to play a random combination of triggers on this step. So it may play just that 5th, it may play just these 2 notes, it may play no notes, it may play all of them. So it's not just like all or nothing type of random, but it is just like it will randomly mute some of the triggers on that step. Yeah, that time it only played that. Yeah. Thanks for being a great example buddy, XY. Let's remove that trigger spark there, especially because I think that the drum track is doing a good enough job of demonstrating what I was going for there anyway. Okay. I need to stop vaping or whatever, especially because I'm actually trying to teach people stuff right now. So let's proceed forward. The next section is going to be about specifically velocity and tonality. I use those quite a bit, actually. And those are what I'm going to use my component spark, or my spark, oh gosh, my skip. I'm going to use my skip component examples for velocity and tonality. Velocity is relatively straightforward. So what I will do here is, like, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to remove that trigger, or that skip trigger from here, so that way we can hear it every time. And I'm going to make the velocity a little bit lower. So I didn't hear a difference. So I'm going to open up the instrument menu, make sure that velocity sensitivity is reasonably high. And then I'm going to try an even lower value. Let's try 16. So that's velocity 3. Let's do even lower. Oh, does it have velocity? No. And then what I'll also do is I'm going to add a send. That's actually kind of cool, huh? I'm leaving it. Question is it the same behavior on the OPZ for these spark/skip components? Yes, it's the same behavior. The only difference is that I believe 9 is random and then 0 is reset counter, which never fully worked, and or at least not the way you would expect, and they dropped that for the XY. So this is actually a little bit more straightforward, but it's basically the same idea. All right. So let's move on to, oh, right, what I was going to show you there is I'm going to add a skip component for, oh, wait, no, yes, that is what I want. So what I'm doing is I'm making it so it's applying this much quieter velocity the first 3 of every 4 times. And then the 4th time, it's going to just be a regular velocity. Now, the first 3 times, oh, what was I going to say about that? Something, but it wasn't that important. Oh, so just the 4th time, it's just going to be a little bit louder. I think that's all I was getting at with that. And just to emphasize that what this is not just going to apply to velocity, but if I also had any other of these step components between jump and pulse, it would also only apply those the first 3 times. And let's make it so that send to the delay is only the first of every 2 times. So that last time it was a little louder, and it might have been hard to hear, but just believe me, that last one was a little bit louder because it didn't apply that velocity. Actually, let's make it super extreme just to make it real obvious. You can barely hear this now. Yeah, so that last one was pretty loud by comparison. So I'm just trying to show you, yeah, how the conditionals work. And sorry that let's try to make this sound a little bit better. So minor break, I'm going to spend a couple minutes here just adding some effect sends and maybe messing with the filters a little bit and playing with the effects a little bit, just so that way this sounds a little bit more pleasant, because we are barely, well, we're not just getting started, but I've probably got a good half hour or more to cover here, and I don't want this to sound obnoxious, because what'll happen is that I'll make a full video, and then at the end I'll be like, holy crap, I can't stand that chord progression anymore. Everybody's going to hate that. Okay, let's add some other layer here. Nope. Yeah, let's just mess with this a little bit more. Then hopefully we can get... get back on track there. I was just getting distracted by worrying about how awful this was all going to possibly sound. Or not awful, but how boring it was going to sound. So I may edit this part out. I may not. We'll see. There we go. So now let's just make it really basic. So that's a little bit more pleasant. Not to say that it's perfect or like a masterpiece or anything, but hopefully this is just going to not be as annoying to listen to repeatedly over the next however long. Okay, cool. So back to the actual thing I was talking about. I mentioned velocity, and velocity has one more super helpful thing, which is it's another way to mute steps. So if you may have picked up on the fact that if I can easily make it so that this happens every fourth time, the first of every 4 times, first 3 of every 4, or not 1, but on 2 through 4. What if I only want it to happen on 2 and 3 though? So we have to be a little bit more creative with this. And the way that we're going to be a little more creative is by combining the skip triggers with these other skips. And so I'm going to change things up a little bit here. I'm going to go ahead and just delete this step, so that way we remove all the parameter locks and stuff on it, and I'm going to start fresh here. It's the same basic idea that it's this accent hit over here on the 16th step, and it's a snare still. But what I'm going to do now is let's make this so it only happens on 2 and 3. First, I'm going to add a skip trigger 4, 4, and 4. So right now it's going to play this step, then it's going to trigger the notes on it on steps 1, 2, and 3, but not on 4. We're going to layer this now with a skip component, and I'm going to, instead of selecting 4, 4, 4, 4 like we did on the last one, I'm just going to press 4 a couple times. And I'm going to make it apply this the first of every 4 times. We haven't yet selected a step component, so right now this isn't going to do anything on that first step. Yeah, it'll still play it. But what we can add here is a velocity 9, which is just going to be a velocity 0, or in other words, it's going to totally mute this step. And that's only going to happen the first of every 4 times. So with those two combined, we've made ourselves a pattern where it only plays every 2nd and 3rd time, or it only adds that accent hit. So let's listen real quick. And just because I see this question coming, like, or at least I'm anticipating it, I generally keep things, especially for drums, to 1 page because I really like to be able to see everything that's happening. I like to be able to see the accent hits that don't happen every time, and I'm more comfortable looking through the step components to figure out what's going on than I am changing pages / bars and trying to figure out where I am. There are exceptions to this, and we're about to get into them once we get to the 3rd section, but in general, yeah, you're going to see me a lot of the time, especially with percussion stuff, using just 1 page. Next, let's go, and we're going to continue on about velocity and tonality. Right now, I'm going to do something kind of odd, though. I just decided that this would be a good way of illustrating this. I'm going to change the engine to just drum, and by scrolling up and down, I've made it so it's cleared all of the samples that were on this track before. And I'm going to add some individual samples. I'll just start off with C, and I'm going to press the sample button, which is going to then bring up the sample menu, and I'm going to put some sort of hi-hat sound here. Let's try to do, and let's over here, let's do just the open hat equivalent of that, of boop A. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the play mode is mute group so that they cut each other off. Okay. I'm happy with that. Next, I'm going to add a real big high-pass filter. This is just going to be like percussion type stuff here on this track. Make sure velocity sensitivity is decently high. Oops. And here's what I'll do for now. Right now, I'm just going to make it so it's these 4 steps. They're each a 16th note. And here's what we got right now. It works. Not great, but it works. Things that we can do is we can add a velocity and add a low amount. So I'm going to add a velocity too. So it's still playing these steps, but this one is going to be louder. Adds a bit of a sense of groove in a way. Speaking of which, if we want to, we could increase the groove on the track, which also affects the velocity and stuff. Actually, let's turn the groove down to 0, but then let's turn it up overall. Oops. Obviously, we can do this on different steps and have different steps be the ones that are being emphasized. So I'll make it so that there's that velocity on these 3, but not on the first one. I could add a multiply too. Now, here's the thing. If I wanted that multiply 2 to only happen every second pass, I'm going to run into a little bit of trouble here, because if I add a skip component there, it's also going to skip the velocity. And so we're going to have these first 2 16th notes are going to be just as loud as each other. And maybe that's fine. Maybe that's exactly what we're going for. Or we could also instead decide not to mute it through there. But we can include that every second time. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so that the multiply happens every second time. And we can hear that multiply. But I also want this to be a little quiet. And what I could do for that is I could go into the mixer and I can go ahead and just decrease it on that step. Not beautiful, but it kind of works, right? Okay, so I was debating this, but this is actually a really good place to go over this. I'm going to skip back to the conditional ones, and I'm going to mess around with parameter lock a bit here, because one of my favorite things about the XY is it's got this setting in the bar menu called shape. And with shape, what I can do is I can make it so that there we go. Oh, let's just apply this. Right now it's going to my right now it's hitting these steps and it's hitting the parameter locks, and it's only applying them for the duration of that step. If we enable shape, though, it will smoothly transition between them at the rate that we're specifying. So right now it won't change until it's just about to get to the next one. So because the second one is right here, and I put it about halfway, it starts to increase right there. What does this have to do with the parameter, the skip parameter? Well, it's because there's this kind of strange behavior that I haven't fully articulated to the TE team yet, I don't think, but if I have it so it only applies the parameter lock every second time, if I only put it right here, on literally the only other parameter lock we've got, right? We've got volume locked in 1 and 16, and that's it. If I put that skip parameter, and we've got shape like this, it's still going to decrease volume, but then it's just not going to do it on only the 16th step. Maybe that's a bad example. Let me put one here. So we're going to see this jump. And in fact, let's just make it so that the track's default is 0, because that'll make this even more obvious. Oh, this is different than I expected it to behave. So it seems like it's just kind of stalling out at that point, which is better behavior than it had before. So I'll take it, whatever. Let's do this, and let's eliminate the parameter locks there. Oh, but there we go. We got another question here. Isn't there a way just to edit the velocity of the step without a step component? I don't know if there is, actually. Yeah, I know pitch bend on the OPC was supposed to do that. I do not think it does on the XY. I don't know if there's a way of doing that. There may be. I just truth be told, I just generally turn off most velocity things when I'm making music anyway. So, just because I'm not the most sensitive player, I've got terrible dynamics. So I guess I just remove the dynamics. Probably not the best choice, but that's me anyway. Gosh, I've gotten myself so off track here. Let's go back to, so now I've talked about how it's a little bit weird when you have shape enabled and you have some of those parameter locks and you've got skip parameter. That can just be a little bit tricky, might not always behave how you expect. You don't need to know the details about it. Let's move on. Let's talk about tonality now. So I'm going to return to our hi-hat track here. And what I'm going to do here is, right now, tonality won't do anything, because if I have this play the note... Wait, it will do something. Oops. I forgot that I put something here. Right now, if I use tonality, let's use tonality, and that's going to... Tonality is going to change the note that is played here, or the trigger that's played here. And so if I make this play an octave up, it's going to, instead of playing this note, it's going to play this one, which is nothing. And that's most of this track, right? But, as you may have seen, I did add a note, a semitone above this one. And so what I can do here is I can use the tonality, 6? Which is chromatic up, or a semitone up, chromatic down, or a semitone down. And that just means it's going to be the note next to whichever note you're on. So chromatic up means that it's going to play this. And what if I want to do that? Let's just do it every 4th time. And you know, let's do something similar. Let's do a, oh, I keep getting those confused. A tonality 6 on this first one, and a component 1 out of 8. There we go. Let's do some more kind of trickery along these lines. That's way too quiet, apparently. Let's do somewhere in between. So as you may be seeing, like I'm going back to the ones that I mentioned earlier, and that's not like for like education's sake. It's because I use the conditional ones all the time, and you're seeing some of my process here, which is I'm going to play around with this. I don't necessarily, I don't need to get it right on the very first time. And I feel like step components for me are a huge part of that process because they allow me to, mess with different steps without necessarily changing the notes on it. And it also allows me to mess with the structure, which is what we're about to get to. But first, I'm going to talk a little more about tonality, which has a few more things that I use pretty often. I never use tonality 8, 9, and 0, so I'm not going to really talk about them at all. I do use 6 and 7, how I just showed, most often on drum tracks, but sometimes they can sound pretty decent on melodic tracks. This is probably going to sound pretty crappy with the bass, but let's just do it anyway. Let's just have it chromatic up every second time. Oof, yeah, so basically what I expected, but part of why, for me, I use chromatic a lot on drum tracks is because usually, like, I'll put maybe a closed and an open hi-hat next to each other, and so that's really good, or maybe I'll have toms next to each other or similar snares or something like that. So I use chromatic a lot on drums, but I'm more likely to use octave on these, on melodic tracks. So let me do octave up, and so the first time it's going to be in that regular in the regular range, the octave that the notes actually are on, and then every second time it's going to bump them all up an octave. Hey, thanks, Geraldo. Really appreciate it. Now, one thing I can't recall, I do believe that these, well, let's see. What happens if I put a multiply here? I don't think it affects things right now. Yeah. OPZ was a little different like that. Why is the multiply not doing anything? Oh, because it's, I think it's just because the multiply is basically being overridden by the arpeggiator. That makes sense. Cool. Okay. And thank you for the super like, really appreciate it. Don't remember if I responded to that because my brain was already still in song mode, so really appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know. And also, like, thanks for everybody that's just tuned in. This has been really fun, especially, like, compared to doing takes on my own and just being like, oh, crap, I hope that this is turning out okay. Or worse yet, trying to be like, thinking maybe I've lost somebody and then feeling obligated to start from scratch even when I'm like 45 minutes to an hour in. So this may be a more comfortable style for me in the future for at least some of these videos, and we'll see how easy it is to edit, because I'm like hearing my voice and I'm like, oh my gosh, I am clipping like crazy, which is a skill issue on my part then. Oh, let's turn down the compressor. Too low? I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. Wait, let me take a sip of my energy drink. Okay. So beyond, one thing I was going to say is I prefer using the octave one, which is 3. I'll sometimes use 5th, which is 4. I rarely use 3rd, and that's because when the XY detects what scale I'm in, what mode I'm in, all that good stuff, when it detects that, it's not always right, and you can get into a lot of trouble if it detects the chord wrong when you're dealing with a 3rd, because it might detect the it might make everything sound like crap, basically. So I don't need to go into more detail than that. So I generally stick to octave, 5th, chromatic up, chromatic down. I don't really mess with these because I literally don't use the brain, broadly speaking, and I also don't use the OPXY's brain track for transposition. And then, yeah, like I said, 890, quantizing it to the scale of the brain, that means nothing to me. That's not helpful. So I basically stick with 3, 4, 6, and 7. And I find I can add a ton of variation with this. Let's add a 5th up on that one. And what if we make it so that every second time this one is a solid octave up? Now let's turn that high pass down a bit, turn the velocity sensitivity way down, and I'm going to hold shift and press minus to transpose these down an octave. Okay, never mind. Let's transpose it back up an octave. Maybe up 2 octaves. I wonder what that'll sound like. Okay, so that's basically all I got to say about velocity and tonality. The only other thing maybe, like, there is a velocity 0 that does a random velocity, but as a control freak, I don't like that. I want to control the velocity and either play it in or edit it using a step component. I don't want to not know what it'll be. Really hard to tell the difference on this one, but that's okay. Maybe I'll share this one later, I don't know. So let's go ahead and move on to the next section, which is going to be jump. And this one is probably the one that I use the most often other than the conditionals. No, not really. I use jump. Yeah, I'm still going in order. Jump just is super important, so I feel like it deserves to be really higher up, like in the rankings or whatever you want to, however you want to think of that. But they are, but jump can basically be used in a few different ways. I would say my favorite is to repeat a bar a certain number of times or repeat a smaller part of a bar a certain number of times. I used to be, especially when I'd be messing around with the OPZ, I used to be a bigger fan of the jumps that let you jump, just skip a component or go back. I don't use that as much on the XY because of the additional bars and stuff like that. So give me 1 second to, truth be told, I'm just reloading the packs, but also just needing a slight brain break. That's the funny thing about this, is that you wouldn't, maybe you would guess, but it takes a strange amount of like mental energy to be like, okay, let me make sure I'm staying roughly on track while I'm talking and monitoring the chat or whatever in this case, and then which I'm only like looking at occasionally, and then doing the actual tutorial, talking through what I'm doing and doing the activity. It's challenging to the brain. Okay. And honestly, part of my love of music and doing like videos and stuff like that is a big reason why is one of the reasons why I left my office job where I was basically being paid to think. for the job at the cannabis dispensary where I am not being paid to think. I'm being paid to be friendly and welcoming and all that other good stuff and getting to know people and selling things. And yeah, that's a lot nicer. Okay, so that rant aside, let's go ahead and get on to jump. So let's just move on here. Let me make it so that we'll do just a very different drum pattern. And we will, you know, something interesting that could be done here is because those do change things so dramatically, because these tonality step components do change things so dramatically, maybe I will, maybe I'll just make them happen every 4th time or maybe every 8th time as like a transition. Why would I stop it at that point? And what I'll do here is I'm going to make it so that, let's add some toms to this. Let's, actually, no, let's not. Let's just add some percussion. These are all sounding kind of weird because I've got such a high pass filter on this, or such an aggressive high pass filter on this, which we can obviously take off or lower a bit. Oops, that wasn't the right one. Let's do it 2 and 3 of every 3. Let's add one there and have that one happen. I mean, let's just do it. I'm just trying to think what would be a fun kind of weird amount. The 1st of every 5. Let's add some sort of, oh, I don't remember which one. Where's Pan? Where's Pan? You know, screw it. I'm not going to oh, what am I talking about? I will waste my time on this. Let's do it. There we go. Oh, you know what? Let's not even do that. What am I doing? Let's just auto pan it. God. Okay, so I still have not talked about jump yet. This is not maybe, this is why past like the 30, 45 minute mark, it gets kind of difficult for me because I'll be like, distracted. But I think I can still cover jump and then pulse, hold, and multiply. Let's just focus for a little bit, he says as he brings his vaporizer back out. Here's what I'll do. Let's say I have this basic pattern here. We'll listen to it on its own. And what if I don't want to use all of my weird step components, all of my weird skip triggers and stuff like that to add variation or have a fill to this? Well, what I can do here, hold down bar, hold down shift and press plus. And this is copy this to the second page here. And I can make this second page like my fill. Let's just add in a few more snare hits. Why not? So this is the second page. And if I go back to the first page, I can add a step component, a jump 1 on the 16th step. And what that's going to do is every time it gets to the 16th step, it's going to repeat go back to the beginning of this bar. But I don't want to do that indefinitely because I do want it to play that fill. So what I can do is I can add my skip component, 3, 3, and 3. So this is going to play it once, jump back on the first pass, play it a second time, jump back, play it a third time, and then it's going to go on to that fourth bar. So let's listen. All right, and what I was going to do here is let's just remove those tonalities. And what I'm going to do is let's add a jump 1 right here. And I'm going to do almost exactly what I just did on the drum track, but I'm going to do 3, 3, 3. And yeah, we're going to leave it like this. There's no second page here, but this is just going to make it so it jumps back to step 1 right here, and then plays this section 3 times before it plays this once. Now, this can also be used a couple different ways. So, and this is where step components become a bit more part of my workflow. So I'm making this a skip. I press 2 twice. So it's going to apply this jump the first of every 2 times. And it's going to jump back to step 1. Jump 1 through 4 refer to step 1, 5, 9, and then 13. So I'm going to have it jump back to step 9 here, and similarly, only the first of every 2 times. So now I've gone from AAAB to AABB. Is it seriously just auto panning these like dead set in the middle? What am I missing? Do I have something else here controlling this or something? No. If width is at 90, why is it acting like that? How strange. Oh, no, we don't have that on. Nope. Huh. No idea. Okay, so what we can do now also is let's use the same jump logic and affect this. So instead of having just 4 steps, I'm moving on to 8. What? Wild, right? Absolutely wild. But on this last step, I'm going to split this up, and we're going to do a jump 1. And the reason why I'm doing it so many times here is because this is only going to last 2 bars. Because these 4 steps here, because it's only 4 steps. That's all I'm saying. And so I'm going to make something very similar in terms of I'm going to add a jump 2, which goes to step 5 here. And let's have this happen. Let's just do it every... how about that? How about just the first? We'll see how that goes. Maybe we'll have it do that 4 times. Eight was the right answer. 8 was the right answer. Thanks for the super like, super chat, whatever. I appreciate it. Also, what kind of currency is that? I'm curious. Anyway. And so at this point, this is one, I want to emphasize that this is one decision as to how you can use step components. This is not the only way of doing it. This isn't the only way I do it. But at least for me, it's very helpful to be able to condense some things. The big downside of this approach is that if I want to edit just the fill on this, that is a bit of a nightmare. There are a couple things that you can do to work around this. Like, so for example, I could remove some of the component sparks so that it just indefinitely repeats the fill, and I could go around and do that on each pattern. Then I got to remember to undo that later. But otherwise, there's no way with this particular setup to to just be listening to the fill on repeat. So that can be problematic. Yeah, but this is, I'm just showing you one way. And I feel like that's kind of at least one of the advantages of step components is that they can help you make a track like more and more condensed. Similar to how like I think some trackers have the ability to have like little programming or sequencing or like syntax, you know, repeat commands or whatever it might be. It's similar to that in my mind, at least. And yeah, you can see how much it can save space, but also that can have its own downsides. And so I'm just trying to show you some of the more extreme ways that I would use it. And I normally wouldn't have each track so densely populated with step components on my own. This is seriously just for the demo. Like I might have just this hi-hats track or this percussion track. I might just have that with all these step components. But it'd be really unusual for me to have step component fills on all 4 or 5 tracks. All 4, I guess. Now, another cool thing to do here, yeah, I think that's all that I'll do in terms of jump. No, we'll come back to jump in a second. No, never mind. We're going to do it right now. So the other thing that I would say is really, really cool about jump is that I like jump 8. And jump 8 will just keep this we'll just keep the playhead in place. So what if I only want it to play through the bass one time for some reason? I'm adding a jump 8 on step 16. So that can be helpful, but you can imagine that it's not always helpful. There is, oh wait, one more example here. That's going to be, I've thought of this before, but I don't know. Oh, I just realized a really cool way that you could use this. So let's just go back here and let's wait for the bass playhead to just be stuck here. And I just realized how you make it catch right back up and come right back in, is that you hold it down, so you edit the step components and you hold down jump, And then the next one we're going to add is going to be a 9, which is immediately going to catch it up to the playhead. Not super smooth, but smooth enough. Oh, I had never thought of that before. I legitimately had never thought of that application before. So, or that like transition between 8 and 9 there. That's going to be super helpful for some of my, some of the stuff I've been doing with jamming with other people and stuff. So let me temporarily save this. And let's go to pulse, hold, and multiply. So I just showed you how to keep the playhead in one place using jump 8. Pulse and hold can be used to repeat steps at like a certain repeat steps a certain number of time and hold the step for a certain duration each time, and then multiply can be done to repeat the notes on the step each time. You've already seen me use that a little bit here. I used multiply 2. So multiply 2 is what every 2 and 3 of 3. We hear this kind of doubling, or not doubling sound, but there's like faster playback sound, right? I could make that more extreme. I could make it 3. So that's kind of cool. This actually is a time when I might use multiply random because I was liking all the different variations that they had there. So that's kind of cool. That's multiply, just in a nutshell. It's a little bit different on held notes. So if I do a multiply 2 here, it's going to basically we have track scale 4, so each step is worth a quarter note. And it's going to play 2 eighth notes, and then it's just going to keep holding it for the same duration as before. So let's do our multiply 2 here. And I don't know if you were able to hear that super clearly, but you could at least see the light flash twice. And so on these tracks where we have these higher scales, now multiply 4 represents 4 quarter notes, right? We could also have it do 5. We can't hear that super clearly. This will just make it easier to hear just this. Okay, so that is one thing that you can consider there. And that whole like multiply then hold is that's how it always is going to work when something is held, is it's just going to multiply that step. Let's do a multiply on this track. I don't know that, I think we just can't really, I think we can't really hear it because the arpeggiator is taking over. Yeah, it sure is. I wonder what happens if we turn that down. How long it holds the notes. Still doesn't make a difference. Okay, so that's good to know. So if your arpeggiator's on, that's what's going to control this. That's way better than what I had before. So let's make that silent for 1. And then 3, we're going to go back here. And actually, so let me just edit or show you how I could use pulse, hold, and multiply on this last step here. So this is when we are just listening. That's like the fill part of this, or the B part, I mean. We could do that all without that jump. And so what we could do here is we could have it repeat this step 4 times. But that's just going to play it as 4/16 notes, which is not what we want. Instead, we're going to pulse it 4 times and we're going to hold for 4. And so this is going to play a quarter note because we're on 16th notes. It's going to hold it for 4 times that long, right? So we could do 1, which is just going to make it so that it lasts the full step, all the way up to 9 or random if we wanted. But we want it to hold for 4, right? Because again, we're putting this on the quarter notes and we want there to be 4 quarter notes. And that's exactly what we want. That's our little fill now, and it's all just condensed into 1 step. But then we're going to have these extra steps that will throw us off of time. But let's listen to it just for the sake of learning, education, me taking a sip of my drink, whatever. And importantly, I forgot that this played 8 times, not 4 times. So I'm changing the pulse to 8. Each time it's still only holding for the equivalent of 4 steps or for a quarter note. But we're now going to have it repeat 8 times, which is what it did before. And spoiler, instead of listening to this all through again and hearing it get off of time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, I could either add a jump 1 at the end of this, because that's exactly where it's going to go. Or I could add a jump 9. And jump 9 is just going to bring it back to wherever the playhead is supposed to be. So let's first of all do a jump 9. And it's going to follow this after it plays 4 quarter notes of this. And like I said, it would do the exact same thing, if I instead did a jump 1. In this case, I mean, this could be 16 full steps if we want now. Oh, did I screw something up? Probably. Seems like it, huh? Nope, seems like we're good. Okay. Man, that I think that's most of it. That's like 99% of what I use this for. It's pretty rare for me to actually use pulse and hold on a percussion track like this. It's much more common for me to add another chord in here or something like that. You can get really complex with this. You can substitute chords. So let's just do that real quick, and then that'll be the last thing, wraps up all this. I appreciate you all watching for so long. I know it's been an hour. That's a while. Let's go ahead and let's wrap up, but just by showing how I would approach it. Oh, this might be a little trickier, but that's okay. We can make that work, right? Maybe not. Maybe not on that track. Maybe just for the sake of simplicity, I'll do this on a different track. Maybe. Well, now I've kind of perplexed myself a little bit, but that's all right. Let's go ahead and give this a try. If needed, let's just go ahead and start on a different thing and just. Oh, but I wanted it to be chords, so. Playing the wrong chord, but it sounds jazzy. But actually that kind of fits the example I was going to go for. So which was going to be about substituting chords. Now this only works if you've got a somewhat sparse track like this, but you can use jump, pulse, hold, and all that good stuff, add a combination of them to have it play a different chord every couple times. So what I'll do here is I'm just going to make it so that maybe instead of playing that C minor, it plays a D major. And what I'll do is I'm going to make it so that it only plays this maybe every fourth time. It'll play this the other 3 times. And I'm going to make this step last twice as long. You could do a hold 2 or a pulse 2. And then at the end of that, I'm going to have it do a jump 7, which is going to go over, skip this step, and go right to this other chord that I put down there. And I'm only going to have that happen every 4th time. So this is kind of complicated. It's pretty complicated. It's not going to be a very good example, but I just wanted to show you that like once you get a hang of this logic, there's a lot of times where you can just go, I want to do this, and at least for me, I can think of a few different ways I could accomplish it. So it's like its own little language, which, you know, is unfortunate because you have to learn it. But the good news is that you could just learn certain parts of it, and then you can get a hang of like how you can combine those parts into much more interesting stuff. Like I did not cover ramp up, ramp down, random, portamento. I didn't cover the pitch bend. I didn't cover several values from all of them. But to me, I've got enough that I can do basically anything I want and accomplish almost anything I want on the XY sequencer. So let's listen to this chord substitution. Let's see if it works. You know, I just decided let's just wait for the 4th, whatever. I've made my bed, right? This next time it's going to do the chord substitution. Okay, clearly not. Oh, I added a jump 7, which is forward or back. And I meant to do jump 1 step forward, which is 5. That's hilarious. Okay, well, now that we're editing it, let's just make it happen on the 2nd time so we don't have to wait as long. So not like the best thing ever, but just another thing that you could do if you really wanted to, or let's actually, let's just change it to, oops. is that holding? Am I doing something dumb here? That just, the timing sounds wrong. And I guess I'm not doing a great job of making my point here in terms of using these in a super flexible way. What if I try it on the first try? That does seem like the kind of thing that I will whine to Teenage Engineering about. Yeah, what's causing that? That's fascinating. Oh. Whoa. Is it just me, or is hold 1 holding it for twice as long now? Nope. Oh, God, I know. It's just because I'm tired. Not tired, but I'm just brain dead now. I did that in reverse. So what you really ought to do is have the jump right here. Have that. Have this. And then the time that you need to be made up is actually on this step. So we're just, oops. Yeah, the time that we need to have made up is on that step. So we'll just add a hold 2 on that, and we'll have it only apply the second time. And we'll have it only play this chord every second time. Okay, so this is, sorry for everybody who's actually tuning in live, because this is just something that's going to get edited out, and I'm about to pretend like I didn't just make all those mistakes. So what I've set up here is I have 2 chords. I've got this C minor, and then I've got this, I mean, it's basically supposed to be like a D major 7. And the way that I want to do this is I want to have the D major 7 just be like an occasional, it'll play that instead. And so I'm going to have it every second time play this one, but I want it to be on time. So the way that I've set this up is I have a trigger spark 2 on this. So the first time it's just going to pass right over this and not play it. The second time it will play this one. But it's going to completely skip over this step because we want it to be instead of this step. So on the second step, I have a jump 5, which is going to skip here. It's only going to happen every second time. And then to make up for that, we have our hold 2. So complicated. Yes. Necessarily complicated? No, completely needlessly complicated. That doesn't need a skip on it. Cool, so there we go. Okay, so like I said, this is like really, it's not a comprehensive look at step components, nor is it as deep as it could go, but this is, in my mind, basically like what I use for 99% of my like reasoning through step components and stuff like that on like any project. And once you get the hang of these, they're very, very useful. I don't know. I guess this is, let me know your thoughts on what you thought about this like full unedited version. I don't know when I'll get the edited one done. It might be today, might be some other day way in the future, who knows. But thank you so much for tuning in. I had a blast doing this, and this actually made it much, much easier, in my opinion, than recording without having like any sort of live audience. And also you get a sense for the fact that like I do make a lot of mistakes, but sometimes when I like fully edit a video, I'm like, man, it makes it seem like I can't string together a sentence. So it's kind of nice having the the ability to actually talk through stuff. So thanks for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts on the format. And thank you all so much for the super chat thing. That was a fun thing to just kind of add on. No pressure there ever. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.